You ready? All right. Thank you everyone for being here today. This is a pleasure for me to be able to share this information with you. I have a problem. I have all this knowledge in my head, and I feel like when I talk to people that they have the same knowledge that I do. And I find that a lot of times people don't. Things that seem so simple and clear to me are not necessarily to the general population. And I want that to be different. Because yes, I'm a doctor and people come to me for answers, but as a doctor I'm also supposed to be a teacher, and I think that's a failing of a lot of doctors is we don't try enough to make our patients empowered for their own health. And this is what these classes are designed for. They're designed to be very practical. They're designed to be for your good. I don't necessarily get anything out of this other than knowing that you guys have a better chance at having good health. So today's topic we're going to talk about is nutrition and healthy weight loss. Now these are going to go together, and I'm going to tell you I'm not going to be really complex. I'm going to try and keep things very simple. We're going to talk about concepts. We're going to talk about principles, things that you can apply anywhere. So, I mean, how many people have noticed that it's really difficult to find two nutrition ideas that say the same thing, that agree with each other? Are you noticing that nutrition tends to kind of contradict itself when you talk to two different people maybe? Well, that's going to happen. It's just going to keep on happening. So what I want to give you all is a base. Something that you can look at whatever it is that we're talking about in terms of nutrition, in terms of weight loss, and say, okay, that sounds good, and this might be something I'm going to try, or, you know, that's way off the mark. I want you to be able to just look at it and say that right away, okay? So, to begin with, let's talk about nutrition. Let's talk about food. Food in general. What is food? Well, food is supposed to be something that's good for us, something that's nourishing to us, and I've drawn all these nice things up here, and some of this stuff is food and some of it's not. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but when we look at food, healthy food, we're going to be looking for certain qualities. Now I'm going to tell you, you can ensure the healthiest possible food if you go to its source. So you're going to look for the closest thing to the original. Now, I've got a few words up here. Some of these things may look familiar to you all. We're going to say whole plant-based food. Okay? So what does that mean to you all? Whole plant-based. What do you think? Anybody have a suggestion? Green.
Or grain.
Grain. Very good. So when we talk about grains, we want whole grains. Right. If we take those pieces out of that, like we bleach it, if we take the hulls off, things like that, we're not whole anymore, right? We're processed. We're starting the refining process. So that's great. Whole, plant-based is kind of obvious. Plant-based, all right.
Vegetables and fruit.
Yes, fresh vegetables and fruit. So now as we keep on going down this list, I'm going to kind of say that these are kind of all saying the same thing. Okay, so we're going to talk about anti-inflammatory. There are foods that are inflammatory to our systems. What that means is they create an inflammatory response. Inflammation is a normal response in our bodies to some sort of irritation. Something that is, whether it be an injury, whether it be some sort of a chemical, whether we're really stressed out, these are things that create inflammation within our bodies. So an anti-inflammatory diet takes the inflammation down or does not create inflammation. So those are the sort of things that we want to look for. And guess what they are? Whole and plant-based foods. That's right. And now we're going to go to this next term, low processed. Okay, so when we talk about low processed foods, we're talking about foods that have not been bleached, that have not been changed from their original or not changed much from the way that they were originally grown or grown. So what are we talking about here? Low processed.
No white bread.
Right, exactly. White bread is very highly processed grains. So white bread, we could talk about white sugar, we could talk about salami and pepperoni. All right, so I'm not going to just stick to only plants. We're going to talk a little bit about this area of animal products as well because it's important. It's important to know what's safe here and what's less safe and what you should completely avoid. And so we're going to go back to this low processed idea. Now, all of these things, if we eat these things nearly exclusively, guess what happens? You don't have to think about weight. The weight just starts melting off. Okay? So I am going to talk about weight loss, healthy weight loss, because it happens naturally when you're eating whole plant-based foods, when you're eating low-processed foods, when you're eating anti-inflammatory foods. So we need to go over what some of these things look like. First of all, let me give you some examples of some of the most inflammatory foods that you can put in your body. I'm going to give you the first one, and we've already mentioned it. That was close. That's in the top 4. Processed meat. That's number 1. We gave some examples of that. What were they?
Salami, bologna.
Hot dogs, ground beef, right? Okay.
This is one of them.
This is number 1. Most inflammatory food that you can eat. All right, number 2, somebody said white sugar. That's number 3. White sugar.
So processed meat, is that include anything that's preserved, which is all of them?
Yes, but if we're going to be more specific to processed meat, we're going to say, okay, it's been turned into something it didn't look like before, like chicken nuggets. Chicken have nuggets? I've never seen a nugget growing off a chicken. Maybe they do, and I don't know about it. All right, how about anybody have a guess for what might be the second most inflammatory food?
Well, the white flour.
Good job. White flour. All right, and the last one is our lovely artificial sweeteners. Okay, so these are the things that you really want to avoid. Okay, avoid them like the plague, because these are going to create inflammation within your whole system. And what inflammation does is over time, it starts to affect our cells in a way that creates changes to the DNA of our cells. So we hear about genes and genetics and how that's important to what diseases we might get from our grandparents or from our parents. Well, those things only exhibit themselves if we get the mutations inside of those genes that comes from inflammation. So you take that inflammation down and you're lowering your risk at developing those hereditary problems. Okay? So that's one reason to stay away from inflammation. But also, inflammation is going to lead to all of our disease processes that are chronic. So cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all these things that everyone's so afraid of. By the way, this is a side note. You know what the top causes of death are in the United States?
Correctly prescribed prescription.
Oh, that's very close. That's number 3. That's number 3. Yeah, very good. The number 1 is heart disease. Number 2 is cancer. Number 3 is the medical profession. Correctly prescribed medications, improper surgeries, medications that were taken properly but they cause side effects. There are all kinds of subcategories within that, but it's called iatrogenic death. It's number 3, unless you look at other sources and then it becomes number 1. So I will tell you, heart disease is around 700,000 people a year. Cancer is about 600,000 people a year. And iatrogenic, it's either 250 or 780,000. It depends on which source you look at. So we'll give them the credit and we'll say number 3, that's still up there. So we don't want to get sick.
Where does diabetes come in at?
Diabetes starts coming down.
Isn't it coming up in the level?
Diabetes is becoming more and more of a problem, but we're able to treat it, so it doesn't necessarily lead to death. Okay.
Side effects does.
Right, right. You're right. Well, heart attack is one of the first signs of heart disease, and 25% of the people who have that die. That's the first chance they knew that they had heart disease was that heart attack, and it's over. So, proper nutrition is going to help us avoid those things. All right. Now, I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of a quiz as we go through these different food groups that we're seeing down here. I want to see how much you guys know about nutrition. All right, so of all the things you see here, what do you think has the most fiber? Would it be this 100% whole grain piece of toast here? How about over here, this chicken's egg?
Broccoli. How about the broccoli or the apple?
Broccoli's close. Apple's number one. So your fruit has the most fiber. All right. So let's go to the next one. How about the most vitamins and minerals? Yes. Broccoli. You're right. And dark leafy greens will have the most nutrients per calorie. You got the most nutrients coming from your dark leafy vegetables. All right. How about protein? Where do we get the most protein up here?
Meat.
Eggs. Meat.
I thought you were going to say chicken.
Chicken? Look, they're all here. Fish. How about fish? Lots of protein in all these things. But if we take these and we take calorie per calorie, so let's say we have 100 calories worth of, let's take steak. All right? We got 100 calories of steak. And we got 100 calories of this guy right here. There is twice as much protein in the broccoli as there is in the beef. So everybody thinks, oh, you're going to get all this protein out of meat. Where do I get my protein? If I don't eat meat, where am I going to get my protein? Well, there's double the amount of protein per calorie in broccoli than there is in meat. Meat is packaged with fat and cholesterol. Broccoli is packaged with nutrients and fiber. Okay? So you want to pack your protein, this is where you need to get it. And guess what happens? There's a lot of fiber in here, so when we talk about 100 calories, that's a lot bigger portion of broccoli as compared to 100 calories of beef, because beef's got its fat and it's got the cholesterol in there too. So that means you can have a smaller portion and get a lot more calories. You need a larger portion to get the same amount of calories, but that means if you're eating the proper amount of calories for your activity level, you're going to get just as much protein as you need. Okay? Not eating any of this. By the way, who has heard we just don't get enough protein? Who's heard that? Right, everybody. It's this big fad right now.
Helps you build muscle and fat.
Well, that's right. Protein helps. Right, and it's true. Protein helps you build muscle. You need protein to build muscle. And you think, you can't get that protein unless you're eating this stuff over here. But where does this stuff get its protein?
What they eat.
These are big animals here.
Eat more chicken.
Yeah, right.
Cows eat a lot of grass.
They eat a lot of grass. Are they eating any steak on the side?
Hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. That leads to some other problems.
They're cut out in the field.
That's right. These animals are getting their protein and their size and their muscle mass and their endurance from the foods that they eat. And the foods that they eat are plant-based foods. Okay, now, there are exceptions. This is my terrible crocodile. All right, so here we go. We got this crocodile here, and he's going to eat everybody here. All right, so now that guy has just consumed a whole lot of protein, a whole lot of cholesterol and fat, all that stuff. All right, fine. Well, here's the thing about animals. Animals, when they eat other animals, they biomagnify the toxins within them. Okay? So they concentrate those toxins within them. So if we were now to take this alligator and eat the alligator, we are going to have much more toxicity, much more inflammation. Why? Well, guess what this cow is, and when we eat it, guess what it is? It's highly processed grass. We're talking about processed food. We're trying to keep processed food low processed, right? Cows are highly processed grass. Is everybody following my logic here? Does this make sense? Is anybody totally not getting this? Is this confusing anybody?
Why does that happen? Why do they concentrate the toxins?
Well, we have fat, and that's just where the fat kind of absorbs these toxins. Now, this is true of fish too, and I like to use the example of fish because the bigger fish is, the more fish it's eaten, and the more magnified the toxins are within that fish. In fact, they use fish to determine if the body of water that they're swimming in is polluted, because before it's recognizable in the water, it's recognizable in those fish. Okay, and the fish are fatty animals, and that's why we like to eat them, because they've got the omega-3s, right? Well, they also have a lot of toxicity. And so the bigger the fish, the more toxicity that's coming to you. We're animals just like these are animals. So the more of these animals we eat, the more toxic we become. We start biomagnifying those toxins. So eating an alligator is going to be a big mistake, because we're exponentially increasing that processing, and we're going to get sick ourselves from that. Now, here's the thing about these proteins. They're considered to be complete proteins, right? Well, that's because they've already been produced into the proteins for that muscle mass. Here's the problem. When we eat these, we have to break down that protein into small pieces, and then we put it back together to make it into our proteins that we need. So that process leads to a lot of byproducts. It leads to inflammation, and it leads to sickness. Okay, so that's why this is, you can eat this stuff, but you need to be careful with how much of it you have, because it will lead to toxic buildup within you, which will lead you to getting sick. It increases your inflammation, which is going to change your genetics, which leads to these chronic diseases that we're talking about that we want to avoid.
So where do they get their toxins from?
Well, they're getting it from, they've got grass, they're eating the grass, and they may be, if we're talking about, let's say, a cattle, they may be getting it from the runoff from the pesticides that are being put on everything. The fish are getting that same thing, and actually fish get more pollution from these guys than anybody else. So, right, hormones too that we're feeding our cattle.
Chickens,
Right.
and chickens.
Yeah, it's happening with all of them. Do you know that antibiotics too are given to animals to make them faster? And the reason why is because we like that. We like the marbled meat. Tastes better. But of course, a bigger animal, more weight, they get more money for it. An animal that's given antibiotics is going to get 15% bigger than animals who aren't. 15% bigger. So that's huge. That's a big increase in profits for the people who are selling these animals.
If you ever ate a farm chicken, that's one that's grown on the farm, that's run around, they're scrawny.
Right. That's right.
I mean, they really.
It's true. It's true.
I ate a lot of that chicken when my granddad raised them, and they weren't in cages. They would run around, and they were scrawny chickens.
Yep, and they're healthier for you than the type that you'll see that are big and fat and white. Okay, so let's see if we can go on. Any questions about anything I've talked about so far?
Yeah, I
Yes.
do. Where does things like bleached rice come in?
Okay, so we're talking now about processed foods again. When we bleach the rice, we leave behind calories, which we can burn for energy, but it has absolutely no nutrient value. And they put nutrients in that bag, and they say don't wash your rice before you cook it because you're washing the vitamins right out. They have to put it on top because they've already gotten rid of it. So you want brown rice. You want those whole grains. Yeah, I agree. Some people think it's better when it's white and sticky, but it's not better for you. Okay, so fat. Who's got the most fat up here?
Okay.
The dairy fish.
Dairy's pretty high, but this is unfair because that's just pure fat. So,
Pure fat oil.
okay. How about cholesterol?
The egg.
The egg's got a lot of cholesterol. You're right, and all the animal products are going to have cholesterol. How much cholesterol does an apple have?
None.
How about broccoli?
None.
How about whole wheat fiber bread?
Well, it depends on if you put an egg in the recipe.
Oh, good point.
Or butter on top?
Yeah. Well, Not much. Not much. So guess what? How much cholesterol is there in oil, olive oil?
None.
None. But guess what happens when we eat this?
We convert it.
We make it. We have to have cholesterol in order to digest oil. Our body makes cholesterol. We're animals. The animals are full of cholesterol and we eat them. We're animals too. Our body makes it. It's supposed to. We need it. It makes our hormones. It makes our bile. It makes neurotransmitters. Cholesterol is really important for us, but we make it ourselves. We make as much as we need. So it's not like we have to have our eggs to get enough cholesterol in our diet. We don't need to have cholesterol in our diet. We make it ourselves. Okay, calories.
What about avocados?
Avocados, fatty fruit.
Yeah, with the cholesterol, how much?
It's going to make cholesterol. We will make cholesterol to be able
But it
to
doesn't
digest
have
it.
any in
No. No, it does not. Okay. Calories. Who's got the most calories up here?
Cake.
Cake's got a lot.
Yeah.
This is going to have the most just because the fat content is... Fat has the most calories. It just does. Protein and carbohydrates have calories about equally, but fat has the most, which means we get the most energy out of it, right? So if you can get the more calories are made for burning, for giving us energy, right? That's an important part of our diet. We need calories. But where we get them will determine how much we actually intake. So if we were to take oil, if we were to take meat, or if we were to take this probably pretty fatty cake over here.
That should make it applesauce.
Yeah, right. Well, we're going to get a lot more calories per serving, right? But if we choose these things on this side, we're going to get less calories per serving. You can fill up all you want on this stuff. Get as much calories as you want. You won't be able to get enough calories to gain weight on this stuff. You can't. If you fill up on your veggies and your fruit and your legumes and your grains. Now, grains have calories, all right? Grains have carbohydrates. People are afraid of starches. So we can put here rice and potatoes, but this stuff is what gives us energy, and we absolutely need it. And there are things in here that we need too, but everybody gets concerned about this because they think, oh, I need more fiber. But it's not. This is not where we get the majority of our fiber. Remember, it's over here. This, I'm going to give you some basic ideas with all these food groups that we're talking about here. When we talk about fruit is good for breaking us down. Okay, it's kind of like cleansing. We need fruit for cleansing. We need it for antioxidants. We need it for the amount of fiber. We've got two types of fiber in this. We've got soluble and we've got insoluble, and both of them are very important to our health. Okay, so when you think about fruit and you think about eating it, you're thinking about it's cleansing you, it's cleaning you out. Antioxidants are used to get rid of free radicals. That's something that helps us, protects our body against damage, protects our DNA against damage. When we talk about vegetables, we're talking about the most nutrient-dense food per calorie. This is going to give us the building up properties that we need, okay? When we talk about starches, these will give us some vitamins and minerals too, but this is really good for giving us energy. This is for the stuff that makes us feel satiated, that gives us the amount of, well, the energy that we need for what we're doing. Now we're getting to dairy. Now I have to talk to you guys about dairy. Dairy is one of the most dangerous foods that we can eat. There's a lot of protein in dairy. And you get lower and lower fat, and then you're getting higher and higher protein. So that's going to lead to inflammation. Now, there are different types of protein. When we talk about animal protein, we have to break it down to build up us. And that leads to these byproducts that are going to be damaging to us. When we talk about this stuff, we've got protein in vegetables. We've even got protein in fruit. It's in the form of enzymes. So enzymes are just amino acids, and amino acids are just broken down pieces of, protein. So we'll build our own proteins, the proteins that we need from these guys here. These are already built, and we have to break them down. Hello, welcome. And that will create inflammation, all right? So But there's more. And I wanted to talk to you about this specifically. This is one of those things that just is in my head and I feel like everybody knows, but people don't know this. When you drink a glass of milk, your mucus production increases, which increases your allergies as well. Now, milk also has a quality that the proteins that are in it, the casein specifically, it reacts with our body in a way where it looks to our body as cells of our own body. If we've got trouble in our intestines and some of this is leaking into the bloodstream and your body sees that, it looks at it as a foreign invader. And now these foreign invaders that look so much like us cause our body to attack ourselves. That's autoimmune disease, okay? Cancer, yes?
I'm not sure I understand that dairy stuff.
Dairy, okay. Dairy has protein. These proteins are similar to proteins that are in our own body. Now, the problem happens when the dairy seeps, it gets into our digestive tract, and it seeps into our bloodstream if we have a digestive tract that's not very healthy, okay, and that's very common. And I'll talk about that probably, actually next series is going to be about that specifically. But these proteins, because they look so much like our body, when they get into our bloodstream when they shouldn't be, then your body says, oh, that's a foreign invader, I'm going to attack that. Well, now it's learned how to attack that foreign invader, but now you've got cells that look or proteins within our body that look like that milk protein, and it creates an autoimmune response. Your body starts attacking itself. So what are we talking about? Autoimmune?
Is it because the milk is animal produced? Is that why?
That's, yes. Yes, because the proteins are similar to ours, because it's an animal protein and we're an animal. Yeah, but it doesn't. So
It causes food allergies.
food allergies, autoimmunity, and cancer. There's a study that they took, what's that?
Where does lactose intolerance come in with?
Lactose intolerance. Lactose is a type of sugar, and we lose the enzyme to break down the lactose, and also the enzyme is destroyed by the pasteurization process. So you'll have some of that in the milk itself, but because we pasteurize our milk, that gets destroyed, and our body just can't break it down. So we start to have an allergic reaction to that. So the lactose, the enzyme is called lactase. We have it until we're about 4 years old. There's some Scandinavian groups that have it throughout their life, and they can tolerate milk pretty well, but most of us can't. So I'm going to go back to the cancer. They fed rats a diet of 20% casein, which was the milk protein, thinking, oh, none of us have enough protein. Let's test this theory. We're going to give these rats 20% protein. We're going to give another set of rats only 5% protein. Well, every single rat that got that 20% protein diet got cancer, liver cancer to be specific. All the rats that got only 5% casein got no cancer. Then they switched them. The ones that had cancer, they put them on a diet of only 5%. The ones that didn't have cancer, they put on a 20%. These all got cancer. The cancer turned off on these. Okay? They were able to turn it off and on repeatedly. Cancer. This is really highly associated with cancer, autoimmune diseases, and allergies. This is a group, if you want to give something up, I would tell you this is the first place to start. Okay? Not to mention there's a lot of cholesterol in some of this stuff. And okay, it's inflammatory.
It's even more concentrated in cheese.
That's right. Cheese is one of the most dangerous things you can put into your body. Okay, so I think
where does yogurt come from?
Yogurt has been digested. It's bacteria that has digested the lactose, and so it's fairly safe. There's not much lactose left in there, so it's a fairly safe food, and it has probiotics, which we will talk about next session. It's a safer form. Cottage cheese is also a safer form of dairy, but in general, dairy is pretty dangerous for us. Yes?
Oh, what about natural cheese and natural milk that hasn't been processed at all?
Let's go back to this processed idea.
Is it still the same with the casein?
Yes, casein's still trouble. That's a good thought. Raw milk has the enzymes that pasteurized milk doesn't. So you're going to get some benefit to that. It's more tolerable to our system. But we're getting highly processed grass here, right? Same idea, highly processed grass here. Okay.
I have a
Just drink
comment
wine
about the
instead
milk.
of milk. That's the problem.
Wine instead of
People
milk.
say that it has a lot of calcium in it, but there were studies made quite a long time ago, actually, maybe 40, 50 years ago, about the calcium in milk. And because it's homogenized and pasteurized, that process binds the calcium. So you actually don't get the calcium through the milk.
You know what
Unless
else?
it's raw.
What else is true too is we get this high protein, low fat milk. And what happens with high protein is it creates an acid. We talked about that. It creates an acid environment in our bodies. Well, what our bodies will do to try and overcome that acid is start leaching calcium out of our bones to buffer. Calcium acts as a buffer. So it will leach that out of our bones. And now we've got this milk that's supposed to be giving us calcium, and it's actually taking it out of us. So that's why you don't see those commercials anymore with the people with their milk mustaches talking about making strong bones, because it's not true, and they've proven it. Those ads aren't around anymore. Okay, fats. We're talking about oils here. These are good for us. We have fat in all of our cells. We need it. It's important. Yeah, phospholipid bilayer. That's right, around every cell. So this is important, but you want to make sure that the oils that you're getting, the fats that you're getting, are from plant sources, like avocados, like coconut, olive oil. All right, the vegetable oils are safer, much safer than the animal fat. Okay, lard, right?
That's a study. It says that some people say that coconut milk is cholesterol.
Coconut milk creates cholesterol. Yes, so does avocado. That's because we need cholesterol to digest it. It's important.
So it's a good cholesterol, you think?
Yes. Cholesterol is good. You've heard of good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, right? HDL is the good stuff, LDL is the bad stuff. Well, the truth is they're both good for us. We need them both. We need both of them. If we had no LDL, we'd be in trouble. The thing is, we have to keep them at a balanced rate. And the only reason why they raise up is because we might be getting too much fat in our diet. We might be getting the wrong types of fat, or we may be consuming cholesterol within our diet as well, and that brings it up.
So when your cholesterol level is high, then you should not go for coconut milk or anything like that. Is that?
I would say get rid of some of these other things first.
Okay.
We do need cholesterol, we do need fat. The ratios are important, and I'm not going to go too in detail to those things, but if you're having a whole plant-based diet, then your cholesterol levels balance out. There's more to that too. You need exercise, but we're here to talk about nutrition tonight, so I'll try and stick to that. All right.
Healthy fat?
Yes, it is.
And coconut too.
And coconut is very healthy.
Now, what about oils that seem a little processed come in to play?
Well, like margarine, for example, things that have been... margarine has what's called trans fats, and those are unsafe for us. Once again, we're getting into processed foods.
What about the oils, like olive oil? Are there differences in?
Sure, there are differences. What you want to try and get is the closest to the source, and I'll keep bringing you back that way. So virgin, extra virgin, and hopefully recently cold pressed, because light and oxygen are going to break down those oils, and they're going to make them toxic to us. So, yes.
What about Smart Balance?
I don't.
Is that better than margarine?
I'm not positive about that. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question well, so I'm just going to plead the fifth.
My mom's a doctor, and she's living in that for a long time, and we use a lot of it. So
Smart Balance.
That for us, we're really.
There's one called Earth
I,
Balance.
it's probably better. It's probably better, or there's Earth Balance as well. Yes.
In the olive oil, the greener the olive oil, the better it is for you. Because the whiter it is, it's been
Right. It's been strained more. That green colors
you get it really
pieces.
green, and it's better for you. Unless
Good.
they've added green to it.
Good tip. Yeah.
The other day, Mehmet Oz was talking about coconut oil, and he said if you're going to have butter, replace it with coconut oil because it is broken down in the liver, and it's actually, if you're going to have a vice with the oils, he said it's broken down better in the body and it's better tolerated.
Good.
And of course, a fat is equal to a fat is equal to a fat. It's all the same calories.
Right. In terms of calories, that's right. So when we're talking about healthy weight loss, we're going to have to restrict calories. The more calories we take in, the more we're gonna take in, right? So that's why if we stay to this area of the food groups, there is fat in these foods, more in these than these, but they're good fats. We need fats, and we need them in a good ratio. So, yes.
Last night I finished the biography of Julia Child. She can't cook without butter and cream.
Right.
Would you say something about how bad that is?
Okay, so we're talking about animal fat again, and animal fat is inflammatory, and inflammation is going to lead to disease. So essentially, there are other ways of cooking. You can use applesauce, I hear, instead of butter, and that works pretty good. I'm not a baker. You'd probably know pretty well about that. I'm sorry, Julia Child. I don't have a.
She only lived till 90, so you know.
You know, right.
She drank a lot of wine too.
Well, I'm with that. That's right.
Okay. There's a question over here.
Real butter?
Real butter. Once again, it's an animal fat. It's going to be more inflammatory to us. So we're going to create inflammation creates disease. We're just trying to stay away from the inflammation.
What about the vegetable butters?
Well, we're talking about margarines. So some of them are safer than others. I don't have a specific example for you. I like olive oil on my toast. I do use Earth Balance sometimes too. So there are some that are going to be safer, but you want to stay away from that stuff.
Coconut oil's actually great.
Yeah.
On toast.
Sure, it tastes good.
And if
Tastes
you want
good.
salt, you can sprinkle a little salt on it.
Good. So, I was over here. We're here at animals now. And we talk about wine. We're not going to talk about wine. We're going to talk about animals here. When we talk about eating animals, the animals that we want to, the best choices in animals are going to be the ones that are closest to their natural habitat. So they're going to be grass-fed, they're going to be wild. Now that stuff is more expensive. They don't get it as fat as quickly. They're tougher meat. There are things that people don't necessarily like about it because it's more expensive and it's not as flavorful and all this stuff. But those are the better choices. When we talk about the fish, we want the cold water fish. And we want fish that have they're not fish that eat as many other fish. Okay, so sharks are dangerous to eat because they've eaten so many other fish that have eaten other fish and so on and so forth. Right, potentially.
You know, like tilapia? What, wild Alaskan?
You know what, I'm not sure, actually. I'd have to defer that question.
To look it up.
I'd have to find out
in the
for you.
frozen fishes, they add all this carbon monoxide and all this stuff in the frozen tilapia if you're not careful.
I didn't know that.
You've got to
Carbon
be careful with
monoxide.
tilapia. It's very popular, but it's not necessarily a good fish.
Good. I'm glad people know about that.
What is
What
Okay.
about that they feed now? I mean, they feed cows and chickens and stuff, other cows and chickens and...
That's a whole other topic. We get talking about mad cows and mad squirrels and mad chickens. And when animals that are not supposed to eat other animals start eating other animals, they start developing weird diseases. And the same thing can happen to us. If we eat people, we start getting really weird. It's called Creutzfeldt-Jacobson. I can't remember now. It starts to destroy our brain, kind of like Alzheimer's. Okay, so this area is never safe. I'm just going to put it out there. That's not safe. This is not safe. You want to avoid these things. They're high in calories, and you can eat more of them before you feel full. And that's going to have you eating more and storing more. So when we're talking about this in terms of nutrition and weight loss, you want to stick to things that have more fiber, that are going to bind other let's say sugars, for example, and fats, and they're going to help move our digestive system, and you're not going to get as much stored. Okay? A lot of nutrients, not much fat at all. Good amount of protein. I'm going to get to this sugar here. Now, the reason why I want to talk about sugar is because this is another thing that I thought everybody should know, and I thought everybody knew, but people don't realize this. Sugar is really hard on our immune system. And I'm going to tell you, one white blood cell, those are natural our defenses within our blood, and they go into our skin, they go everywhere. They can kill 14 bacteria, each one. Okay? That's great. So we got an upper hand. One white blood cell can kill 14. Well, now you take a scoop of ice cream, and you can only kill 10. If you were to drink a 12-ounce cola or soda, get whatever you want, they have a lot of sugar, 5.5 now. If you have a milkshake, 12-ounce milkshake, we're 1-to-1. One white blood cell, one bacteria. You think we're going to be in trouble? Let me tell you some statistics, just real quick. This is kind of off topic. This is really for the next topic. We are like, oh man, I should have the statistics before I tell you, but we're mostly not us. Most of our body, we're about 10 times our cells are bacteria. So does that make sense? We're more bacteria than we are our own cells. Some of it's good. Most of it's good. And even the stuff that sometimes looks bad to us, like E. coli, for example, or streptococcus, those things live in us. And they're totally docile until things become unbalanced. Guess what helps to unbalance? Yeah, sugar. And remember how inflammatory it was? Way up here, number 3. So.
Can I ask something?
Yes, Freddie.
If you eat sugar once in a while, is it still really bad for you?
The sugars that, I guess I didn't go there. Safer sugars are honey. You can. There's agave nectar. There's some substitutes that are fairly safe. Xylitol is one. It's made from birch bark. There's stevia. So those are safer forms. Go ahead, Philip.
Oh, what about trivia? Sugar in the raw. Sugar in the raw is not sugar.
Yeah, brown sugar is a safer sugar, less processed once again. So not light brown sugar, brown sugar.
Okay, and wouldn't antibiotics, is that why we wouldn't want to take antibiotics because we're mostly bacteria?
Yes. And next week, I'm going to talk more about that.
How about orange juice?
How about orange juice?
It's full of fructose.
You're right, it's got a lot of sugar.
Is that bad?
It can be. Yeah, especially if you're diabetic.
So eat your orange.
Yeah, eat your orange. You get the fiber with it. Much better. Yes,
I
Ava.
want to say something about brown sugar, which I didn't know. Brown sugar, the regular brown sugar is white sugar that has been dyed.
I heard the pictures.
There is something called turbinado sugar,
Right.
which is a raw sugar.
Okay.
But brown sugar itself is not the real original brown sugar.
It's white sugar that's got some molasses.
Freddie,
and there's a lot of cream.
sugar is something that is so easily captured by our body that it can be dangerous for us if we have a lot of it. So we need to have sugar in moderation. The best way to get our sugar is right here in the fruit. So you can have it at times and your body will tolerate it, but you want to have it in small quantities. So a little bit's okay. Your body will tolerate it if you've been keeping yourself pretty healthy, but it's still going to do this. Still going to do this. Yeah.
If you have a Coke.
Yep.
As long as that Coke is in your system, you're looking at 5.5.
Yeah.
Until it's out of your system.
Right.
So if you have one every day.
Yeah.
Or several times a day.
Your immune system's, it's shot. Yep.
What if you have one like once a month?
Well, your body might tolerate that. You're still going to do this. You're still going to decrease your immune system's ability. So what if that once a month, there happens to be someone around you that's fighting the flu? Now you're more likely to get it. it's decreased your immune system's response. Okay, so I want to talk about something that you guys can do now without having to change anything in your diet to help you lose weight. How about that?
That's great.
Okay, simple. Enjoy the same foods that you're eating, but you're going to change when you eat them. So you see this big hunk right there, that strong guy? Well, let me tell you how he likes to eat.
It's just like him.
Doesn't it? I thought so. It's self-portrait here. This is breakfast. Should be our biggest meal of the day. Then comes lunch. And then comes dinner. All right, so if you eat this way, then you will have energy for your day. Because that's when you need it. You don't need your energy right before you're going to go to bed. Now here's what happens here in America. We all rush in the morning to get to work. We may have a cup of coffee, maybe something sweet if we have breakfast. Some people are better and they'll have like a bowl of cereal with a glass of milk in it, and still not a great breakfast. But then we'll skimp on lunch, we'll have something quick, and then when everybody gets home for dinner, everybody sits down and eats a big, delicious meal.
Just
right?
a bottle of wine.
Yeah, just a bottle of wine. That's the answer for everything. All right, so this is what we typically do. We have a little breakfast. We may have something of a okay lunch. Usually it's not very good. And then this will be our dinner. We go to sleep on our calories. What are we going to do with them? We're going to store them. That's it. So if you want to lose weight now, without changing what you're eating, but change when you eat it, this will do it. This is great. This is great for doing that. And I'm telling you this now, and I just heard just like maybe 3 days ago on NPR, they were talking about a Harvard study where people who were trying to lose weight, they were restricting their calories. Two groups, they had the same amount of calories. It was what's the word for that? They made sure that all things were equal according to their statistics, and they found out that the people who ate this way lost 5 pounds more than the people who were eating this way. So it is important. Now, that was a Harvard study, and I can't give you where it came from. I just heard it on NPR as I was on my way to work. But I'm sure it's easily found. So this, because it's right now big news. This is not new. There's an old saying: eat breakfast like a king, eat lunch like a prince, and eat dinner like a pauper, right? And that will help you keep a healthy weight. Yes?
Can you give us an example of what you eat for breakfast on a regular basis?
I was
what's on the
afraid
menu
you'd
that you
ask
have?
me that.
Just curious.
Okay.
It's a broccoli.
No. Typically what I eat, and it's probably not the best, I'll tell you that.
Or what should you eat for breakfast?
Okay, the first thing when you're getting up in the morning, you have not eaten all night long. That's why it's called breakfast, because you're breaking the fast, right? So you need to have something that's kind of easy to assimilate, and that's a great time for fruit, all right? So fruit can be one of the first things that you eat in the morning, like an apple, for example. Gets your digestive system going again, gets it ready, it's easy to process, and then you can start incorporating things that are a little bit denser in calories. So toast, for example, with some olive oil on top, or you might have some healthy cereals. That's hard to do. Most of the cereals are pretty sugary. So muesli can be a good one. Muesli will have nuts and seeds. By the way, we didn't talk about nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds have fat and they have protein, and they're good for you. Still within moderation, but they're good for you. They're important. So, and they need to be raw. Roasted nuts are no longer healthy. They taste good. They're crunchy. They're salty. Typically, they're not healthy. The raw nuts are the nuts that are healthy for us. Good fats that turn into bad fats when they're roasted. Okay? All right, so does anybody have any specific questions?
Okay. So if you're diabetic, you
Yes.
can eat a lot. So I cannot eat a heavy meal in the morning. So
Right.
what do you do?
Well,
6 meals instead of 3.
yes, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, that's
There's
what
a
they said, that
new-
you have to eat a little.
Yeah, there's a new idea that we should eat more frequently, small meals,
Yeah.
and it does help to lose weight. Here's the problem.
Okay, so no problem.
It does not give your digestive system a chance to rest. Now this is another thing I didn't mention. We're talking about 3 meals here, but these 3 meals should be 4 to 5 hours apart. And the dinner meal is, like I said, the lightest. If you're not very physically active, you could leave it off.
You don't have, yeah.
And your body's not going to complain, all right? You may get a little grumble in your stomach, but you're going to sleep better, you're going to lose weight, and your health is going to improve all the way around. But if you eat those small meals throughout the day, you never give your digestive tract a chance to rest, and you will break it down. You will wear it out. You're going to lose your energy, too. It burns calories if your digestive system's constantly working. It has to burn calories to be able to do that. So there's some science to the fact that, yeah, it's going to work, but is that going to be healthy? Just like these diets that say, well, eat a lot of this stuff. You can even eat a lot of this stuff. Just don't eat any of this, and don't eat any of this, and don't eat any of this. Too much sugar.
What's that Big A diet?
Yeah, the Atkins diet. So those ideas, they work. People lose weight on that, and they get very sick. So
They gain it back real quick because I've been there.
well, that's right. They're yo-yo diets. So all this stuff that I'm talking about, you probably didn't hear me say the word diet that much. I didn't say healthy diets for weight loss. I don't want you to think about it as diets. This is the way you should always eat. This is the way you should think. I need nutrients. Where do I get my nutrients? They're mostly going to come from here. I need to have things that are going to protect me and cleanse me. That's coming from here. I need energy. That's coming from here and a little bit of this, okay? So the most important oils, by the way, are your omega-3s and your...
Which would be in what?
shoot.
Flaxseed oil?
Flaxseed oil is a good one. Evening primrose is good. There's kelp has good omegas in it as well. The omega-3s. Did I say omega-3s the first time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting all sidetracked. Okay, so we need oils. They're important, but you'll get a lot of them from the food you eat, like the nuts, like the seeds. So if you get that, and from the fatty fruits as well. So
what does she eat as a diabetic?
in terms of, yes, you're talking about not being able to eat much for breakfast.
Right.
Okay, so
45 grams of carbohydrate.
okay, so the foods that you eat as a diabetic should be foods that have a good fiber content, because that'll slow the glycemic index. That'll protect you from the insulin release. So you're going to look for things that are whole grain. You're going to look for things that are having lots of fiber. So you should eat your breakfast, and you should feel like... Here's the thing. If you're eating like a king, think about this. It's a rich food, meaning it has lots of nutrients. Look for the nutrient-dense foods. All right, that'll be important. Not so much the quantity, because you can eat a ton of this stuff and it's not much calories. You can eat just a little bit of this and you get a ton of calories. So, and you can eat this, and that's really going to hurt you when we're talking about diabetes. So, did that answer your question?
Well, if we're diabetic and they're telling us to eat 6 meals a day, but eat small meals,
Mm-hmm.
then should we cut down to like maybe 4 meals a day and to try to do it better than the 6 meals a day?
Yes, and then keep cutting until you get down to 2 meals a day.
Is it true that they can only eat a small amount, or can they eat all they want as long as it's the right kind of food?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, there's not going to be much of a glycemic hit when you're talking about vegetables, so you can go wild on them. By the way, if you just want to lose a lot of weight and you don't want to worry about being hungry, eat as much leafy greens as you can. You're going to fill up before you are increasing your calories above what you will burn that day. You're going to be full. You just can't fit any more in. So you're going to lose weight. It just happens. So you can do that. It's kind of an extreme, sort of, because you're eating a ton of this green stuff. And yeah.
I read a book where they were talking about one of the Japanese suggestions for breakfast, and they used, in this book, this was from, I don't know, probably the 19th century, they use whole grain rice with fermented vegetables, which is really, really healthy.
Fermented vegetables have those good bacteria that we need, and the rice is good for calories.
What does that mean, fermented vegetables?
Fermented, like,
Rotten?
yeah,
No.
and tempeh, and fermented just means that the bacteria has fed on it, and so it has. It doesn't sound good, but it can be pretty tasty. So maybe an acquired taste.
There is another study also by Harvard University.
Mhm.
They have done is mindful eating.
Mindful eating.
Mm-hmm. So you can eat. You take 20 minutes to finish your food, morning breakfast and lunch and dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and all nutritive food you eat, and your stomach takes 20 minutes to inform your brain that it is full.
Good point.
So you eat slowly.
Yes.
Munch, and the saliva is working with the food, and the saliva is going down your digestive system, and it is calming yourself down, and it says that in
I'm
20
full.
minutes I'm full.
Right.
When you have that feeling, you don't want to eat anymore.
Right.
Then it stops.
Right.
So you are eating a little portion, and you are eating nutritive, and you are satisfied. You're not going for anything else. In 4 hours, you're going to eat again.
That's a great piece of advice. The slower you eat, the faster you feel full.
20 minutes.
The more you feel
You have
full.
to take it like 20 minutes. You have to slowly. The thing is also, you put one mouthful and munch it 30 times.
30 times, right. My grandfather always used to say that, chew 30 times.
That's
Because
correct.
we were eating anyway.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
have to count that and 30
He
times.
wanted
and
more.
You won't eat much. And then you won't eat much, then you want to eat nutritive. So in that time, you want to eat. So I'm doing that, and I lost 20 pounds, which is good.
Very good. Yes.
Question, like for the rich, like for the breakfast.
Right,
for
the
breakfast.
king.
So I would have my whole grain bread
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a nut butter smear on it.
Right.
Toast it maybe to give it some texture and crunch. And then a nut butter smear, and then slice some apple slices on top of that, and sprinkle a little cinnamon maybe. Or is cinnamon still that bad for you? Because I know you said it was awful, but
Oh, really?
Cinnamon is irritating to your nervous system.
okay,
Mm.
I knew
There's
that.
a really good replacement for cinnamon, though. It's two spices. I can bring it next time. I can't remember.
Okay.
But it's a certain. It tastes really delicious. We have it now in our house and put it on there instead of cinnamon.
Cinnamon is a medicine. You can use it medicinally, but it's not something that you want to have all the time because it is irritating to your nervous system.
Okay, so just omit cinnamon.
Okay. It sounded delicious what you're talking about. Now, the
But I'm trying to
foods.
think if that would be a combination considered rich.
Yes, here's the thing, and I hate to do it, but when you talk about nut butters, they're roasted, and you're going to get a lot of oil, and you're going to get a lot of, so therefore fat. So not that it's
lost its nutrition.
No, not that it's lost its nutrition. If we're talking about weight loss, you want to stay away from having that much oils or that much fat, and we want to stay away from the roasted. Yeah, that can be trouble. So the exception to that is peanut butter. You need roasted peanuts, otherwise they're toxic. So the peanuts aren't nuts at all; they're legumes. Yes.
Okay.
How bad or how good are things like clams and oysters and mussels?
What do they eat?
They're scum-sucking bottom
Algae,
feeders.
I guess.
No, they're bottom feeders. They eat the stuff that the fish eliminate. They take up the heavy metals. So they are one of the most toxic foods that you can eat. One of the worst. Shellfish are one of the worst things you can eat. It's the most. Yeah.
And I wanted to say one thing about the fish, when you were talking about the fish. There again, you want the fish that stays higher up in the ocean, not the ones that go down and feed around the body.
Right, right. That's right. And
Catfish eater, there's some sucking bottom
Right.
feeders too.
Real fish that come from Norway.
yeah, that's right.
Cod.
Okay, I know this may have been kind of a trick topic here because I didn't say, okay, you have to eat this way or you have to eat these things. What I'm saying is if you eat more over here, you're going to have the caloric needs that you need be met for your energy. You're going to have the nutrients that you need, and your weight is going to normalize. You will start losing weight. The idea of when to eat, what portions during those times, and just like you said, which is wonderful, slowing down your eating, which is hard in our society. Everybody's speeding everything. So if you can do those things, your weight comes off. It comes off slowly, albeit, but steadily and permanently. And that's what's important. Philip.
You don't want to lose weight like me.
If you don't want to lose weight, you don't have to worry about it. What we're talking about...
But see, I don't want to eat a bunch of junk food just to gain weight because then it's all fat. None of it's
Right.
good.
Yeah, so how do you gain weight? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, I like that question.
Okay, so in order to gain weight, you have to take in more calories than you're expending. So if you're very active, you need to eat more calories. And if you eat more, you're going to get more nutrients. Now, I'm still going to tell you need to be over here.
So nuts?
Nuts have a lot of fat. They have a lot of protein. So they have more. Yes, but once again, we're getting over here to the stuff that can be inflammatory. So you can be eggs are fairly safe. I'll tell you. You want to look for the ones that are from chickens that are grass fed. It's better. They'll say organic, whatever.
Chickens that get
Brown eggs are closer to that. So do the best you can in looking for animal products when you do animal products that are having the least amount of hormones, that are having the most natural sort of an existence.
Also, in eating eggs, some people say that the white is good, and
The white has more protein, and the yellow has more cholesterol. And they kind of work well together.
Oh, okay.
So they go back and forth. That's been a debate going on forever. So if you're going to eat them, I'd say eat them whole.
I think something that may be helpful for everyone, and you may or may not be prepared for this, but can you share some examples, some case studies or some examples of people that you've seen personally that were eating all the way the typical American, overweight and eating all the wrong things, and then they took this advice, and what type of progress did you see? Someone that comes to your mind specifically, before and after type thing?
I can give you a good example. I had a lady. She was in her 60s. She was overweight. She had high blood pressure. She was she worked at a daycare, and it's always amazing to me when I tell patients this stuff and they actually start putting it in practice. I told her all this stuff that we talked about, and she started doing it. And she started losing weight, and she was telling me, oh, I'm losing weight, and it was coming off steadily. And I was so excited. Wonderful, that's great. She was starting to feel better. She came in because she had foot pain. That was starting to go away. One day, I get a call because she was concerned. She had fallen, passed out at work, bumped her head on something that the children were playing with. Her medication for her blood pressure was too good now. Her blood pressure had gone down to the point where her medication was now giving her drop attacks. She had to go off her medication. So there is danger to getting healthy. Right. And so yes, people, this is stuff that is tried and true. I can give you many examples of that. This is typically not. This is for your overall health. This is not typically what I treat. What I end up seeing is people come in, whether it be because they are having low back pain or foot pain or knee pain or hip pain or whatever the problem is, and they say, oh, I know if I lost a little weight, then that would help. And it's true. It would. But if you do this stuff, you're going to make yourself healthier overall. Then what I do is that much more effective. here's the thing too, and I'm going to draw your attention over here a little bit. You see, this is an illustration. These are your intestines. Some of you can't see this. These are your intestines. This is your stomach. Here's your liver. Here's your pancreas. These organs that are processing our food, they send nerves back to the spine, and then those nerves get carried up into the brain. So sometimes you can have trouble in your spine that will create a dysfunction in your organs. Sometimes you can have trouble in your organs that's going to cause dysfunction in your spine. Which is it, chicken or the egg? I don't know. I like to help people here. This is what I'm good at. But this just tends to get better along with it. And if you do better here, you're going to do better here. Okay? They all come together. All right? We're not separate systems. Our nervous system is connected to everything. And so is our immune system, and so is our endocrine system, our circulatory system. Everything's affecting everything. If you're going to be unhealthy here, it's going to affect some other part of your life. Yes?
I eat a big supper,
Yes.
and I kind of like just eat 2 meals, like a late breakfast
Okay.
and then a late supper. But if I switch that and still ate a big supper but ate it earlier, would that help?
Yes. You don't want to eat anything after 7. Okay. So if you're going to have your supper, it should be light and it should be before 7. I'm not sure what time it is. What time is it?
20 minutes to 8.
20 minutes to 8. Okay.
Caleb?
Yes.
Just one thing, if anybody wants to go over and become vegetarian, what about the vitamins B12 and zinc, which is in a lot of meat products?
If you want to become vegetarian, you're not going to lack any vitamins or minerals. Not even B12. If you want to become vegan, you may start to have trouble with B12. And you may need a sublingual for that. It takes about 3 years to become deficient in B12. So
Does that mean no eggs?
if vegan means no eggs, vegan means no animal products at all. If you have eggs, you're going to get B12. If you have meat products at some time, then you'll get B12. If you eat dirt sometimes, you'll get B12. So I don't necessarily suggest that. But it comes from bacteria. Bacteria make it. So
Dark leafy green vegetables full of B12.
no.
No.
They don't have
No, but if you eat the dirt with them, you might get some.
Algae used to have B12 in it.
Okay. So, yeah, B12 can become a problem if you become a vegan after about 3 years. So, okay. Yes.
What about stomach bloating? I get bloated and I exercise. I'd be thinking, why am I bloated?
Well, it may be. We didn't.
I do have milk.
You do have milk?
in my cereal.
Well, try and trade that. That's a good place to start. There's some good milk substitutes like almond milk, or there's soy milk. There's coconut milk now. That's wonderful. So you can try those things. I don't want to keep everybody, because there are people who probably need to get going. But I'm going to stay for as long as there's questions. I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you learned something. I hope this was beneficial. I hope you can recognize now where you get your most nutrients, what things are for what, and how you can strategize to lose weight in a way that might be less effort than you thought it might be.
If someone is watching this on video later and this is the first time they've heard from you, can you tell them how to reach you, where you're located, that type of thing?
Yeah, we're here in my office right now. We're in Oak Ridge. My phone number is 865-425-9716. We have a website. It's called Health by Design, OR for oakridge.com. 681A Emory Valley Road. That's in Oak Ridge, 37830. And check out our Facebook too, which is just look up Health by Design Chiropractic. You'll find us. And any of those methods, we'll be getting information out. You may see this video on our website coming up, which is exciting. All right?
It was great.
Good.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
There's a national about frozen broccoli. I live in myself, and so broccoli goes bad before I finish it. So is frozen okay?
Frozen is better than fresh.
Better? 'Cause it's-
Frozen fruit and frozen vegetables are picked and frozen when they're ripe. Yep.
Oh, okay.
When they're ripe, because they can't once they're frozen, they can't ripen. So you're going to get better quality there unless you've got it fresh from the farm, picked it yourself. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to have come in a truck and it ripened in the truck and it's been sprayed with something, and so frozen's actually better than fresh when we're talking about supermarket. So I'll let you all go. For those of you who have been here for the first time, I have a gift for you. For those of you who are patients, you're going to get a gift too, but the gift for you guys that are here for the first time, I'll give you before you leave. So don't leave without that, okay? Thank you all.
What if somebody wants to talk to you?
I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.